So you've gotten pretty good at guiding AI to get the exact text, code, and images you want. And that's a huge step. But, the real mark of an expert isn't just knowing how to use a powerful tool, it's knowing how to use it responsibly. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. The source material for this chapter kicks off with this brilliant analogy of a kingfisher. It makes this perfect, precise dive for a minnow. The skill is incredible, right? But to really understand it, you have to see the whole picture, the impact on the pond's ecosystem. And that's a perfect mirror for what we're doing. The precision of our prompts is one thing, but the impact of our creations, that's another thing entirely.
And that, right there, is the big question for this whole explainer. You have these amazing tools at your fingertips, tools that can generate pretty much anything you can imagine. So the question becomes, how do you make sure that what you're creating is beneficial and safe and not just powerful?
This is where we make the leap from just being a user of AI to becoming a thoughtful steward of the technology. See, mastering these tools means you have to understand their ethical side just as deeply as you understand their technical functions. It's really about building things that are not only clever, but also wise.
And here's the key thing to remember. Responsible AI use isn't just a list of rules or don'ts. It's an expert's mindset. It's about getting into the habit of thinking ahead, of anticipating the potential consequences, and guiding the AI towards a positive impact right from the very start.
So how does this fit into everything you've learned so far? Well, think of this chapter as the capstone. It takes all those practical skills you've been working on and adds this absolutely crucial layer of judgment and foresight on top. And this slide right here lays it out perfectly. The skills you've already mastered, like using clarity and specificity to control the AI's output, are the very same skills you're now going to use to guide its real-world impact. It's the same toolkit, just applied with a whole new layer of wisdom. Okay, so let's get practical. How do we actually put this mindset into action? Well, let's break it down into 3 core practices. Think of them as essential tools for your expert toolkit. So our toolkit really comes down to 3 big ideas. First, we're going to learn how to actively counteract bias. Second, we'll cover how to always verify facts and respect intellectual property. And third, we'll focus on how to proactively protect privacy and confidential data. Let's break each one down. First up, bias. So there's this story in the source material where the author tried to generate ideas for a community mural that celebrated diversity. But the AI's vision of diversity was, well, really superficial and stereotypical. It wasn't reflecting the real community, it was just echoing the common and often biased patterns it learned from its training data.
The big takeaway here is that we can't just ask for fairness and expect the AI to get it right. We have to actually engineer it into our prompts. That means using specific descriptions to list the exact kinds of representation you want to see. It means using negative prompts to flat out tell the AI to avoid stereotypes. And it means using iterative refinement. You look at the output, spot the gaps, and then adjust your prompt to fix them.
Now, this whole idea of unintended consequences, it's not just about bias. It leads us right into our second practice, verification. The author talks about generating a fake historical newspaper article. The result was so realistic, so plausible, that his first reaction wasn't, wow, cool. It was a very distinct, uh-oh. It's a pretty stark reminder of just how easily AI can create convincing misinformation. And this same issue pops up with intellectual property. The text gives another example where an AI generated a snippet of code that just felt a little too familiar. Sure enough, with a quick search, it turned out to be almost a direct copy from an existing open-source library. The AI doesn't know about copyright, it's just a master pattern matcher. So what's the game plan? How do we guard against this? Well, it's all about adopting a verification mindset. This means you are always double-checking facts with sources you trust. It means you clearly label AI-generated content when you share it, and you treat any code or text it gives you as a starting point, inspiration to be analyzed and rewritten, not a finished product to just copy and paste. Now, we've talked a lot about being careful with the AI's output, but what about being careful with our input? This brings us to our third practice, protecting privacy. PII, or personally identifiable information, is any data that can trace back to a specific person. The source tells this story of almost pasting sensitive meeting notes, full of names and details, into a cloud-based AI. It was a near miss that highlights a massive, massive risk. The solution here is all about being diligent. First, you have to sanitize your inputs. Before you send anything to a cloud AI, you've got to meticulously scrub it for any PII. Second, anonymize the details. Replace real names with placeholders like client name. And third, for the really sensitive stuff, you should consider using AI models that run locally, on your own machine, keeping your data completely off the cloud.
So as we start to wrap this up, it is so important to get this one thing. This is not a one-time checklist. Responsible AI use is an ongoing practice. It's a habit of critical thinking that you have to build into your workflow every single time you use these tools.
Ultimately, it just comes down to building a habit of asking the right questions. Before you hit go on a project, just pause and ask yourself, what biases could be hiding in here? Could someone misuse this to deceive people? Am I respecting privacy and IP? And who might be negatively affected by this? That constant reflection, that is the ethical mindset in action. And that brings us to our final thought for today. Now that you have this framework for thinking about the risks and your responsibilities, the next step is to actually apply it. So, how will you build this critical evaluation into your own creative process? Thinking about that question leads us perfectly into our next explainer, where we're going to dive deep into the practical techniques for evaluating and refining your AI's outputs. I'll see you then.